It's a series of art installations that comprises a larger piece called Oracle. It's a number of processes, and you finally get to one part of the installation itself which comprises of a particular type of Oracle. Initially, you design a question that you would like to pose towards an oracle or the oracle, any way you want to view it. You come across a situation where you have to start to understand that your question can be misinterpreted, and that happens in general sort of life, where you may say certain things or you may ask questions, but the interpretation of what you're asking is varied. You're presented with a number of light sticks, and these light sticks at the moment aren't lit up, but there's actually a large wall which is full of plasma globes, and these plasma globes allow for what we call the generation of ions. You can't see these ions, but they're constantly flowing out of the plasma globes themselves, or the plasma balls rather. If the light stick or the light globe is brought close to the actual plasma balls, they'll light up, and that's because the ions are travelling into the light sticks. They're exciting the gases that are found in these light sticks, and they light up. With Into the Well I Look, you've now designed, or rather you've built your question. The whole point with most things in life is that you should be really reflecting on what you've just asked, because it's an important factor in life that you sort of ask yourself what it was you just asked. Essentially, because of this desire that we reflect, this installation piece is where you have an opportunity to reflect. And we've constructed this particular installation with soap films, and soap films are quite colourful, and that's purely down to the way light is reflected. So the connotation there is that please walk into an environment where reflection is a huge part of the role play, and at the same time please reflect on what you've actually asked. Alice and Her Brood, it references obviously Alice in Wonderland, where you're entering an area of hyper-reality, and in this particular piece it's sort of trying to actually put across an area of confusion, doubt. You're not too sure whether you should ask the question, but you really want to, and you really have to, but you really don't want to. Talks about that doubt that we have festering in us, and it's fairly dark, and that's why we've made it to be fairly dark, but there's a bit of light right at the end of it. And as with most things that are sort of hyper-realistic, you've got something in the way which you just don't expect. And in this case here happens to be a piece of toasted bread. Ephemera Undone is actually quite a bit of a wild piece, in that when we ask a question, it can be misinterpreted, misunderstood, and you can reinterpret it in many, many ways, even by yourself, depending on where you are in life, whether 20 years have elapsed or not. And what we've actually done with this piece is it's purely made of a number of different types of plastic films which change colour depending on how light is interacting with them. And it's trying to symbolise the different interpretations of your question. So depending on where you're standing, depending on what you look at, there's a colour change which is associated with a different interpretation. So every colour represents a different interpretation. Everywhere you stand, you get a different interpretation. So essentially here, it's about your question being heard and understood in many different ways by many different people, including yourself in different parts of your life. With And the Lies Begin, the first oracle represents a fake oracle, and what generally happens here is you actually have an opportunity to toast some bread, and you then place these pieces of bread onto the oracle itself. Now the weight of the bread actually triggers a sound fragment, It symbolises, I suppose, more than anything else, that you have an opportunity to do work. You can actually make that sound, but you're using a weight rather than the bread itself. So the bread is not necessary, and it's trying to relay across that you are getting someone else to do work for yourself, which you yourself could do, but are not going to do yourself. Straight after this particular oracle, you now have to come across what we've classified as a real oracle. I have always been here is what we've called this one. Essentially, this oracle is found in the home, and we've symbolised that by making it out of toast and placing it into a room full of toast. We've linked the oracle with the home via this toast. For the toast actually conveys family and, I suppose, times in the kitchen. The difference here, of course, is that the music that's actually generated in this particular installation comes directly from the toast itself. In other words, the toast is necessary to get the music. It's not about weight, it's about the toast itself generating the music, which is more or less about you actually doing the work to get the end result. Not getting someone else to do it, but you yourself. Therefore, you're in the thick of it. And that's the important part of life, where you sort of understand that for me to achieve this, I have to do it, as opposed to getting someone else to do it for me. With scrutinized catharsis, it's that time in our lives where we actually receive answers we don't want to hear, but we have to deal with them. So in this particular installation, we've actually produced an area, or rather a location, which is full of fire and brimstone, and that's what sometimes we need to do. We need to walk through fire to get to the other side, and that makes us stronger, and that makes us better in some respects. So in this installation, we've got a large amount of bubbles that have been produced, which are full of hydrogen gas, and as they rise up, they are actually ignited to create a very large combustion reaction. And it symbolises, again, the fire that we sometimes have to walk through to get to the other side. Now, unfortunately, mainly when we actually have difficult times and we have to deal with difficult times in our life, we have to do it in the public eye. And that's why I and the Eye, which is another particular installation piece, is placed within the confines of this large flame pit area. And it symbolises the eyes of the public looking upon us and casting dispersions on us. But the real victory here is to walk through the flame knowing that you have people looking over you and talking about you, and navigating through that muck and getting to the other side. In where sodium dares. Moving past public perception, you obviously are seeking solace, and solace is very much undervalued. In this particular installation, it's a very quiet area which is coloured bright yellow. And the idea is that for you to lose yourself in the colour, because the actual sodium lights that are in this room basically drown you out. It's a time where you have to take a step back and just simply be in the moment. You just simply look around, no one knows you're there. So you disappear into the background via this particular light. So it's about you contemplating your life. And finally, after we've actually moved away from this particular installation, we head to I Am Here. And I Am Here is quite important in that it's a revelation for you. Looking up into the sky, you'll notice that white light is actually being broken down to a multitude of colours. And everywhere you look, you'll see different fragments of light, different colours emanating. And the whole point here is to understand that enlightenment is knowing that a question and an answer has got many textures associated with it. You're never going to receive one answer. You're never going to ask one question. Your question itself is multiple. The answers themselves are many as well. You need to understand that before you can actually ask legitimate questions of yourself and receive legitimate answers from yourself.